All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Let's Recover Together, where we are going to be jumping into the world of trauma and mental health. Remember, today's topic was going to be about trauma and mental health and how to navigate through that in your life. So that's what we're going to do today. So, I'm your grateful host, Kevin, as always. And so here we share stories and more insights and expert advice to help really spread the message of hope. That's what we want to do, right? We want to spread the message of hope and create that. So whether you're on your own journey or maybe it's a loved one, this is a safe space for learning growth, empowerment, and not letting some of these demons take effect in your life anymore and run your life. So, welcome. I hate doing this, but if you could subscribe, and share, it really helps the algorithm, and not only that, it helps the channel and it helps the business grow. And the more people that see this when you share it, the better, because you'll understand what I'm talking about. But I'm sure everybody in America already has a sense of what is going on here. So we're going to break into that. Sorry, excuse me for a second. So we're going to start off today with a story. All right? So we're going to start off with a story with this boy. This boy is about 7 years old. Yeah, 7 years old. And he was never a troublesome child. He was always happy. He always greeted people. He was, he would get a little wild, but that's only because he was into sports. So back to the story. So this young lad had a very poor upbringing, though, meaning that his mother was an alcoholic, stepfather really didn't have a grasp on life either. Say stepfather, but to that boy, he was not a stepfather. He was no father at all, no father figure. So this boy had his mother to be able to rely on, and he always did rely on her, and she was always there. But one day, this boy meets a friend. Well, actually, it's perfect because the young boy's mother was best friends with the other kid's mother. So it worked out perfect. And like I told you, now this child was 7, and the other child, I believe, was 13 at the time. Yeah, I believe he was 13, from what I understand. So, and they would be frolicking around, doing what boys do when they're young, play sports, this and that, while the parents would be inside doing what they're doing, So, they'd be outside, and the parents would be inside. So cool. So then we fast forward a good few years later. 13 years. This 7-year-old child is now 13 years old now, and he's starting to act out a little bit. He's starting to lash out at his mom when he never used to. He's finding it easier to skip classes in middle school, yet alone high school when he gets there eventually, which leads me into when going into high school, this kid would, other than playing sports, that is the only thing I think that kept him in line was the sport, playing football, basketball, and baseball. Those were the only things that I believe helped this child stay on the right course. Well, a young adult at this point, and going on through his younger years. Now, again, I preface this and I say he was living with his mother now at this point. His mother and stepfather, if you want to call him that, they had separated. I don't think they divorced, but they were separated, I believe. So, I mean, this kid would do everything with his mother. You know, they would they'd go to parks, they would, and I mean like theme parks. Now, even though the mother was dealing with traumas of her own and you know, experiencing anxieties of her own of being an adult, right? And then trying to take care of a child and by yourself, and especially in high school years, that could, you know, that could be traumatic in itself. But no, you know, what ended up and started happening was, you know, like I said, this child started lashing out at about 13. You could only imagine by the time he got to 16 years old, you know, and they had a whole, you know, a house with a whole bunch of space in the backyard. So he was throwing parties almost every night. He was, I mean, yeah, almost the talk of the town, basically. Very popular because it was a village. It's still considered a village. Hilton, actually, in Hilton, New York. Very small place. But, so, people talk, and, you know, it is what it is. So, this young child, he's 16 now, he's going to be going into his 17th year, so, or 17 years, so he's going to be going into his senior year. Not 17 years. But, he's 17 going into his senior year. So, summertime rolls around, and that young lad that I'm speaking of is me. And I woke up, went out to go check on my mother, and noticed she was dead. And the trauma of that, and we're going to get back to the friend from earlier, but the trauma from that and the anxiety and the experience of just seeing my mother there, dead, it rocks your world, right? It really does. You know, so, and you know, that's why I have realized that anything can change in a New York minute, right? It really can. That's a fact. And you have to be ready for that. And people with mental health disorders and addiction disorders, they really, a lot of times, sometimes they have this, like, sometimes they can be vulnerable, but most of the times they don't trust people. And that trust keeps them away from help even longer. You know, they don't know where to turn. They don't think they're worth it. You know, they believe that other people should be getting stuff instead of them. And they're just stuck in this rut. They don't love themselves enough. And they have to love themselves. If you're going to recover, you have to love yourself. So that happened. And yes, that took me down a negative path. But now going back to that 7-year-old child and why he started lashing out, myself actually, not I'm gonna get back in, or it's me. That, you know, when I was 7 and all the way to, it was actually 13, you know, I was being abused and molested. And not only that, but I was humiliated and whipped with sticks while we'd be out hanging out. He would find like the smallest sticks or the skinniest ones where they had the hardest whip. And I remember having, you know, marks on my body, and I never told my mother because I felt like I was wrong. I felt like I did something wrong, truly. And that's what this disease does. That's what it does. It, you know, totally messes with your head to the point where you really think, like, you know, even going off and telling somebody to try to get help is wrong. You think you're wrong. And, you know, I could actually understand why some people believe and think that, because guess how many people turn blind eyes to stuff like this? Hundreds, thousands, okay? That's why we need to build awareness about this stuff. So now, after I lost my mother, you know, I went through a phase, like I said, I went negative. And, you know, I do have an older brother, but so I went the negative way, and, you know, he was just finishing up college, and I just couldn't, it's like I just couldn't get a grip on the world. man. And I turned around and I started self-medicating because that was easiest. That was the easiest thing to do. Self-medicate, right? So I would self-medicate, and this was going on for years. I was running and gunning. But it was because of the underlining mental illnesses that I had that I was not addressing. That is really where my drug problem came from, really. To mask all that and to try to not feel, right? I don't want to feel that pain. So what I did was self-medicate. Not knowing that a little bit of pain is good for us sometimes. And sometimes we need it, and it keeps us in line sometimes, right? It really does. And it sounds, counterproductive, but it truthfully, a little bit of pain every once in a while in a situation won't kill you. But, all right, so what I wanted to do, I have a few numbers that I took down, and I hate doing this because I hate that we actually wrote something down. But I wanted to read off some numbers of mental health and, the organizations of what's going on right now. So, right, here it is. So, mental health and trauma. So, according to the National Center for PTSD, say that 60% of all, I can't say all, but 60% of men and 50% of women experience at least one traumatic event in their lives normally before they're 18. Among those who have experienced trauma, 20% of women and 8% of men develop PTSD, which is, obviously, those are extremely high numbers, and they're only rising. And the thing is the stigma about this. That's been the biggest thing that I think we could say, is that the stigma about this is unreal. That's one of the things I keep getting from everybody and hearing from everybody is if we would have had this back in, the early 90s or, late 80s, whatever the case was, if they had something like this, like a channel to go to, like Let's Recover Together, how much different maybe their paths could have taken. So, we definitely don't want to take that from anybody. So, but we also don't play what ifs around here either, too, because what if? You could go negative, positive with that. Sometimes it is fun to, placate and think what maybe it could have been if maybe you did this or that. But anyway, so when I started getting clean, when I put everything down, then there comes the maintenance phase, right? When we put the drugs down, and it just doesn't stop there. That's just the beginning of our cycle. Now we actually have to deal with our emotions that we've been self-medicating for so long. And everybody has their own reasons of why they self-medicate. In fact, I would actually like us to get some conversation going on in the comments. Let us know, what are some of the struggles that you've dealt with dealing with any mental health illness. So we want to know. Let us know, because this is a community, like I said, a safe space where I want people to feel like this is one-on-one. This is like, like we're together, and we are. We're together in this. We're recovering together. So, yeah. So those are some of the things I wanted to speak on, but I'm going to be brief. Like I said, today's video wasn't going to be too long anyways, so I am going to say farewell for today, but we're going to be coming back at you with another video. I don't know, we may put one out Saturday, so look for it, but if not, it will be Monday. Either way, thank you for coming and listening. We really appreciate everybody, and I appreciate everybody at the Let's Recover Together staff. They're amazing. I couldn't do any of this without the help. So, and thanks to everybody that listens and comes and supports us. But please like, subscribe, and most importantly, share. Because the more this gets out to the ears that this gets out to, we need people to pay attention to these issues. We have to set the silence alarm off. It has to happen. So let's be strong, stay strong, and let's recover together.